We're entering 101 seasons of New York Giants football, and in the 100 years the Giants have been a franchise, they've produced 32 Pro Football Hall of Famers. This includes players, coaches, and team executives. But who belongs on Big Blue's Mount Postmore? Here's Paul Schwartz, Steve Serby, Ryan Dunleavy, and my list for our New York Giants Mount Rushmore.
The assignment was find four players, four of the most elite players in Giants history, to be on the Giants Mount Rushmore, or Giants Mount Postmore, as our series is called. That's 100 years. That's a long time. Very difficult. It's an elite list. Let's start with the best player in team history, right? Lawrence Taylor, outside linebacker. The best player has to be one of the top four, right? He was the best player in Giants history. And how do I know that? Because many people think he's the best defensive player in NFL history, NFL football history. So if he's the best player in the league, he certainly is the best player on the Giants. Revolutionized the game. Sack master. He had 9.5 sacks as a rookie. They didn't even count them because the NFL didn't even count sacks. Add that to his 130-something sacks. Kept offensive coordinators up at night. Kept left and right tackles up at night. Two-time Super Bowl champion. Not much more. When he got into the Hall of Fame, Lawrence Taylor said, "I came here as Lawrence Taylor, and if I didn't play for the Giants, I'd still be Lawrence Taylor, but there never would have been an LT." Enough said. He's great, and he obviously is an easy one to put on the list. Who else is on the list? Frank Gifford. For people of a certain age, Frank Gifford was, if you were a Yankee fan, it was Mickey Mantle. If you were a Giant fan, it was Frank Gifford. He was a matinee idol looks, came from USC, came from Southern California, came to New York, was a star, was a good-looking, charismatic. I mean, when you talk about a marquee player, now he was a great player. He was a Hall of Fame player as an end, as a running back. I think he had like 9 touchdown passes. I mean, it was an era where guys did everything. I believe he was a Pro Bowler as both offense one year and defense as a defensive back the next year. I mean, they did a lot of crazy things back then. Frank Gifford, to a younger generation of Giant fans and of football fans, was, of course, the voice of Monday Night Football, right? Frank Gifford, Howard Cosell, and Dandy Don Meredith. So his fame, I mean, he was a great player, but he was a famous player. And a Mount Rushmore list is not only greatness, but also fame. And Frank Gifford was famous, and that's why he deserves to be on this list. The one coach we have, Bill Parcells. Look, Tom Coughlin could have been on the list. He won 2 Super Bowls, but Bill Parcells won the first 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. And when you think of Bill Parcells, Jersey guy, right? The Giants played at Giant Stadium in New Jersey. Bill Parcells was a Jersey guy. Came up through the ranks, was an assistant for Ray Perkins. Started as a head coach and won 3 games. I think they were 3-12-1. He came, and I'll put my hands together very close, this close to getting fired by George Young after 1 year. Okay, he did not. I think that was one of the best moves George Young ever made, was to not fire him. When you thought of the Giants, you thought of toughness. You thought of just a certain way of doing things. It was Bill Parcells as a coach. The first 2 Super Bowls just legitimized the Giants. He deserved to be on the list. And those 3 guys are all Hall of Famers. This last member of the Giants Mount Rushmore is Eli Manning, who is not yet in the Hall of Fame. He did not get in his first year of eligibility. But to this generation of Giant fans, Eli Manning, I mean, I just can't see having 4 people to represent the Giants and having Eli Manning not be one of them. 2-time Super Bowl winner, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, 2-time slayer of Tom Brady and the Patriots. 2007, after that season, took on the undefeated Patriots, 18-0. If the Patriots won that game, they could have gone down as perhaps the greatest team. Not perhaps. They would have gone down as the greatest team in NFL football history, and the Giants, as a huge underdog, beat them. Eli Manning, class for decade and a half, never missed a game with an injury. When he retired, he put it best, and I was actually mad at him because he said something. I said, I wish I wrote that, but I had to steal it from Eli because he said it. He said, Wellington Mara always used to say, once a Giant, only a Giant. For me, it was always a Giant. that was Eli. Never wanted to play for somebody else. And, he is a deserving member. Maybe he'll get in the Hall of Fame one day. But Eli Manning represented the Giants. He is a New York Giant through and through, still works for the team. So that's the New York Post, New York Giants, Mount Rushmore. It's a darn good list. Now, we had some also receiving vote guys, 7 of them, and this says something about the franchise. 6 of them are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and did not even make the Giants Mount Rushmore. Okay, I didn't memorize them, so I'll go down the list. Tim and Wellington Mara. Tim Mara bought the team for $250. No, make that $500. $500 he bought the team. I mean, my colleague Brandon London, he has footwear that costs more than $500. Okay. Pretty good investment, right? I wish I could buy something for $500 and have it be worth maybe $8 billion right now. So Tim was the starter of the franchise. Wellington, his son, was the patriarch of the franchise, worked for the team for over 60 something years. Would have been a worthy person to be included. Players. Phil Simms almost was perfect in the Super Bowl. The first Super Bowl victory, right, in Pasadena. 22 of 25, 3 touchdown passes. And from what people say, 3 of those incompletions could have been caught. Phil Simms was a great quarterback for the Giants. Could have been on the list. Emlyn Tunnell, 3 players, Emlyn Tunnell, Rosie Brown, and Mel Hein. Mel Hein was the prototypical center. Rosie Brown might be the best draft pick in NFL football history. He was a 27th round draft pick, okay? There are 7 rounds right now. He was a 27th round draft pick. I guarantee you, if there were 27 rounds in the draft when Brandon London was coming out of UMass, he would have been picked, okay? I love Brandon London. He would have been picked, no question about it. I'd say maybe about the 11th, 12th round Brandon goes. He's off that list. 27, and Rosie Brown made 9 or 10 Pro Bowls, one of the great offensive tackles in history. Emlyn Tunnell, I think, still holds the Giants' record for interceptions. I believe he's the first African-American player they drafted and played for them, and is a Hall of Famer. So a lot of guys who did not make the list could have been on Mount Rushmores with almost any other team.
Well, obviously, you've got to start with LT, right? The most feared defender probably in the history of the NFL. Steamed around that corner, terrified quarterbacks. Imagine if he was elite even with a hangover. I mean, the guy was unstoppable. I wrote a book with him, and that was an experience in itself. But one of a kind. The thing about LT was when you interviewed him, when he played, he didn't want anything to do with the media. So I would walk him from the locker room to the parking lot, and I think he admired my persistence. And once you got him to talk, he was one of the best quotes there was in all of sports. But LT for sure. And you've got to look, Bill Parcells belongs, brought 2 Super Bowls to the Giants, 1984, the Jersey guy, 1984, he changed his ways. He was too soft, too lenient, too much of a player's coach in 83 when he took over for Ray Perkins. And became the Parcells we know in 84, weeded out the druggies, and master motivator, Jersey guy, 2 Super Bowls before he walked out after the 1990 Super Bowl 25 win. So you got to go with Parcells. And George Young was so instrumental in the rebuilding and the resurrection of the New York Giants. Drafted Phil Simms in 1979, first-round pick. Then in 1981, of course, he drafted Lawrence Taylor. And George Young was the man who presided over he was instructed by Pete Rozelle to mend the Mara family feud between Wellington Mara and Tim Mara. And George Young was the right man at the right time. And that's why he is on my Mount Rushmore or Mount Postmore, whatever you want to call it. And then there's Wellington Mara himself, the patriarch of the NFL. The Duke was named after him. It's right on the football. He was instrumental in the smaller market teams surviving because he believed in television revenue sharing. Class act, just as his son John Mara is, and so important in the history of the NFL.
There's one guy who has to be a unanimous pick, right? It's Lawrence Taylor, greatest defensive player of all time in the NFL, revolutionized the game, made left tackle an important position because you couldn't have Lawrence Taylor wreck your right-handed quarterback from the blind side. Anybody who's seen the opening 5 minutes of that movie understands that. 132 sacks, and that's with a season that didn't count because sacks wasn't an official stat. Last defensive player in the NFL to win MVP in 1986, three-time defensive player of the year, just a revolutionary player. Michael Strahan, again, the Giants are known for the pass rush, right? After Taylor, I think he was teammates with Strahan for 1 year. Then Strahan passed down the legacy to Tuck and Osi. That's what the Giants are. Strahan's one of the greatest. It's funny, a whole generation will grow up knowing him as a game show host and a Good Morning America host and a Fox pregame football studio guy, but he was a force on the field, man. And especially in an era where the Giants held their own against the Eagles and the Cowboys, Strahan was, and that feels like a million years ago at this point, but he was a force. He was the reason why he won a Super Bowl in his last game. He had the famous stalking the sideline, telling people to believe, and they beat those undefeated Patriots. And that's after he led the Giants to a Super Bowl in 2000 that they lost. Frank Gifford, the Giants, people forget, the Giants' history didn't begin in 1986. It didn't begin with the Super Bowl teams in the Super Bowl era. There is a great Giants history between 1925 and 1960, and you have to reckon there's some all-time great players. There's Frank Gifford, there's Mel Hine, there's Rosie Brown, there's Sam Huff, and I ended up going with Gifford because I know the Mara family always believes he was one of the greatest Giants of all time. They saw it, I didn't, and obviously his stats speak for himself. NFL MVP in 1956 when they won the title, NFL Comeback Player of the Year in 1962. And then you had to pick a quarterback, Brandon, right? And then you're sitting there, is it two-time Super Bowl MVP Eli Manning, or is it one-time Super Bowl MVP Phil Simms? Phil Simms kind of got cheated out of that second Super Bowl when he was injured and Jeff Hostetler won it. Careers are close, man, but I just think Eli Manning culturally, call it recency bias, culturally with the Manning cast, the personality that he has, the last name that he has, he's just become, I think, such a New York icon. More than just a football player, more than just a great Hall of Fame quarterback. I think he should be in. Just a great cultural icon, New York City icon. I think Eli Manning is, and so that's why he got the fourth spot.
I respect all of these guys' lists, and there's so many great Giants that I feel as though will just get left off. But here goes my list. Being a former player and now being in the media associated with the Giants, I have to go with Lawrence Taylor. That's the easiest one. Hands down, the greatest defensive football player of all time. He grew up in Williamsburg, Virginia. He was supposed to play at UNC with my father, but my father ended up going to the University of Richmond. So I've always been upset with him about that. Wanted him to play college football with Lawrence Taylor. My second on the list would be my big brother, Michael Strahan, obviously one of the greatest Giants defensive players of all time. But if we talk about the impact that he not only left on the field, we have to talk about the impact and legacy that he left off the field. I mean, you just think about what this dude was doing when he was playing football. He was already hashtag more than an athlete, and he's just been, I guess, on fire off the field with his career post-retirement. Plus, he got to who gets to retire after winning a Super Bowl? That doesn't happen unless the football gods favor you. Eli Manning, obviously, we have to put on this list. I know Phil Simms won 2 Super Bowls, but the fashion and the manner in the way Eli Manning won his 2 Super Bowls. He beat the greatest quarterback of all time, made 2 of the biggest throws and plays in Super Bowl history. And I just remember the way that guy prepared for his greatness, just his preparation throughout the week. His playbook would have all these notes and different color pens, and the man might as well just wrote in crayon as well. I mean, he had so many notes in order to get him prepared for each Sunday. That guy is the greatest Giants quarterback of all time. And lastly, Last player on my list would be Emlyn Tunnell. I think when we talk about New York sports overall, everyone talks about Jackie Robinson and the impact that he was able to have on the game of baseball. Well, Emlyn Tunnell is the Jackie Robinson for the Giants. He was the first player, African-American player or Black American player to play for the Giants, and he's the first African-American or Black American player to be drafted into the NFL Hall of Fame. You talk about the work that he did while he was here. He's the Giants' all-time leading interception leader, and in fact, after what he played 60 years ago, he's second all time in the NFL in career interceptions. Not to mention, he's second all time in punt returnage yardage and all. So not only did he leave an impact on the defensive side of the football, but also on special teams. And we're in an era where a player could kind of lose his marbles or get thrown off of his game through comments made on social media, where those hateful comments that people see on social media, those were said in Emlyn Tunnell's face. And he was able to do not only withstand that, but to go out and play football at a high level, and represent the New York Football Giants. But that's my Giants Mount Rushmore. Without further ado, here's our Mount Postmore of Giants football. Frank Gifford, Lawrence Taylor, Eli Manning, and Bill Parcells. Oh, should Phil Simms and Tom Coughlin have made the cut? I'm sorry, Coach, I didn't vote you on there. It's my bad, but I still love you. Is there someone else, you guys, that you felt represented Big Blue at an elite level, but they missed the cut? Let us know, because we want to hear from you, the diehard Giants sports fan. And do us a favor while you're at it. Make sure you subscribe to Post Sports Plus so you get full access to this series.